Welcome to the latest Wax Ecstatic Pack Break. I'm your host, Matt Sammon, and we are looking at the last of the early to mid-90s Donruss sets in this week's podcast. I'll be coming your way this Friday. That, of course, will be February the 12th. And it's going to be a fun dive into a set that does not quite get the love it deserves because it is a well-designed set, but because it was right in the thick of the junk wax era, and because there were no blockbuster rookie cards in the 94 Donruss set, it fell pretty flat. And this would be the end of the line in many ways for Donruss, even though the Donruss base brand continued until the late 90s. By 1994, it had jumped the shark, basically, and we'll explain why in our podcast. Now, we're going to open up two packs here. These are from Series 2, and you can see that these are hobby packs, as the little orange bar up here indicates. And Series 1 and Series 2, not a whole big difference between the two sets. Donruss in 1994, as they were putting a lot more emphasis on their Leaf and Studio Premium sets, kept the base set pretty basic. So nothing stands out about the players in the set. In fact, the set, as we'll talk about this Friday, is smaller than previous Donruss sets, certainly compared to 1993. Kind of got back to Donruss's roots, going to 660 cards, but they were still big on some of the trends at the time, including lots of inserts. The Donruss Diamond Kings, of course, were insert cards as well. And what else did you have big in 1994? Well, you had borderless cards here, so that was the big trend then. And also, every card is foil stamped. We were just on this big gold foil trip in the early 90s, and that was certainly the case in 1994. Still a good value, even though this was a hobby pack, 13 cards in every pack, although by 1994, these would have set you back, I want to say $1.75. But here you go. Let's open these up here. You've got a little promotion for the Long Ball Leaders, one of the numerous inserts that Donruss had in the 1994 Series 2 packs. Tamper-resistant packaging, of course. We pull it out, and we've got our cards. Now, before I go through the cards, you probably can't hear it, but because of the loads of UV coating, in fact, there you go. You can see it right there in the light. Because of the loads of UV coating, these cards will stick. That's another downside of some of these early to mid-90s baseball cards. Well, let's start off with, from the California Angels, Gary DiSarcina. That's a great Harry Carey name there. That's Gary DiSarcina. And a quick look at the back of the card here as we watch DiSarcina making a routine pop catch here. You've got a whole wide canvas here for the action photos. You've got the little information box here, very brief information about height, weight, where he was born, how acquired. You can hardly read his name or the team that he played for or his uniform number here. So that's a downside here. Donruss so wrapped up in the gold idea that they tried to put gold on black, and it just didn't work real well, dark gold that is. And one of the many changes that came to Donruss in 1994, eliminating the recent Major League record and just focusing on the previous year and his totals in Major League Baseball. So there you go, Gary DiSarcina. We've got what was already proven by 1994 to be pretty much a bust, Todd Van Poppel. Of course, if you got this card back in 1991, you would have had easily $3 or $4 in your pocket there. Let's see. On the run, we've got Tim Costo of the Cincinnati Reds. I never liked those gray pinstripe Reds uniforms. They were trying so hard to find an identity with their uniforms back then. From the Montreal Expos, we've got Lou Frazier. Let's take a look at the action shot back here. Another look at him swinging the bat. Eric Hillman of the New York Mets. And the Mets, of course, not very good back then. Here we go, your Hall of Famer, Larry Walker. Star card, Hall of Fame card. Of course, in 1994, you didn't know he was going to be in the Hall of Fame. But a great look at him early on in his career, only 6 years in the major leagues at that time. We've got Danny Schaefer, the Colorado Rockies. Again, one of the early names from the Rockies. We do have a Diamond King here from the Toronto Blue Jays, John Olerud. One of the most underrated hitters. You think of those Blue Jay teams. And in 1994, they were defending world champions for the second time. You think back to Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter, and don't forget Ricky Henderson was with them, Paul Molitor as well. You think of some of the pitchers that were on those teams, like Juan Guzman. You had Dave Stewart as well. John Olerud often gets lost in the shuffle there. So we got a nice insert card there. Hippolito Pichardo. And let's take a quick look at the front of the card here. Nice full canvas again. Team logo, player name, and big old Donruss name stamp there. And that's a bit of a distraction, just having this big old square chunk kind of taken out of the picture there. Not crazy about that. All right, now we've got one of the parallel cards. This is interesting here. The parallel card, let me pull the other card off of it. So what Donruss had in 1994 was a parallel set. Not all 660 cards, but 100 cards. And you had the first parallel set was cards 1 through 50 in Series 1, 51 through 100 in Series 2. Now, this is a Jeff Bagwell. Talking about Hall of Famer here. Very nice parallel card to get. That's a sweet find, right? The downside is because Donruss was so wrapped up in hologram and gold foil and everything, it is just damn near impossible to read, the logo, the player name. And I also find it interesting, too, that in Series 2, Donruss didn't wait or didn't use a spring training photo of Jeff Bagwell. Of course, the Astros had a new logo and uniform at that time. You can kind of see, here, let me get that in the light there. You can kind of see the logo where they incorporated the Astrodome in the logo. And they didn't utilize that on the front or the back. And another problem with the series, the parallel series, is that you can't read the card number. That's the card number there, and you have to really, really, really squint here. It's 85. Oh, by the way. But regardless of the production problems here, this is a pretty darn good card to have. Won't pay off my mortgage, as most cards from 1994 won't, but still a very nice find there. All right, we've got Paul Carey of the Baltimore Orioles here. We've got Mitch Webster of the LA Dodgers. And last but not least, we've got Mark Clark of the Cleveland Indians. And once again, the Indians going through a uniform change in 1994. Donruss just relying on the old photographs from the previous season. And you can tell that's old Municipal Stadium in the background there. Not even waiting for Jacobs Field to open up. All right, speaking of opening up, let's open up pack number 2. Have to use my teeth on these, sorry. All right. Jacob Brumfield, there he is. Cincinnati Reds, looking like something cool's going on over in the dugout. It's like, ooh, I know what you're doing. Andy Bennis of the San Diego Padres, partial sellout at the Murph, as you can see in the background. Also with the Padres, we've got Phil Plantier. We've talked about him. The big unit, Randy Johnson, pointing to the big unit in the sky. Let me see what that action photo is here. Oh, Randy Johnson popping a squat. Excellent. That's an action shot if I've ever seen one. All right, Jeff Montgomery of the Kansas City Royals. We've got Pudge, Ivan Rodriguez, another Hall of Famer. So that's 3 so far in this pack. Who else we got here? Eddie Murray, that's number 4. Reggie Sanders. Looks like we got another parallel card in here. Ryan Klesko. That would have been a big rookie, or not a rookie card, young star card in 1994. All right, our next parallel card here, Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly. And again, it's sharp, it's shiny, but hard to read. Great full color action shot there of Mattingly in action. That's a nice find. We've got Bob Zupzik, one of the great 90s baseball names. On Bob Zupzik's back, again, UV coating here. There we go. Ron Darling, then with the A's, of course, notable with the Mets earlier on in his career. And then Tom Gordon flipping his rosin bag with the Kansas City Royals. All right, so something we're going to talk about in this podcast, of course, is how these cards, they're very nicely designed. Certainly right up there with the rest of the competition in 1994 in terms of design and, as you can see, insert cards as well. And neat little parallels there. I mean, a parallel of a Hall of Famer. Who else did we have? Speaking of Hall of Fame, we had Randy Johnson, Von Rodriguez, Eddie Murray. Yeah, I didn't count Johnson in the Hall of Fame count here. Don Mattingly, who should be there. And then we've got the plethora of extra cards there. But look at this pack, or these two packs here. So, Donnie Baseball Parallel, John Oliver Diamond King, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Famers. I mean, that's quite the haul there. Grand total value of these 26 cards, probably $3. Right? These are your valuable cards right here in the front. The ones in the background, not so much. But again, this is an added bonus for those of you looking to scratch that 90s nostalgia itch, because I'm going to tell you in this podcast, if you just want to travel back to 1994 and Donruss in particular, man, can you get some bargains on these cards. And you'll end up with not only a bunch of nice flashy looking cards here, but you'll also end up with some neat parallel cards. You'll end up with some nice inserts with the Diamond Kings and a plethora of star cards here. I mean, we can look at some of these names here. Some star cards from the early 1990s. A lot of stud players who would turn into Hall of Famers. So we'll talk about that. It is a bargain bin beauty for those of you looking for that 90s nostalgia itch. It will certainly be scratched. But we'll also share how 1994 Donruss was the beginning of the end. It all started going downhill from here. And not just for Donruss. It would be a little bit of the tip of the iceberg for the entire industry. That's all happening this Friday. Again, that is February the 12th. We'll drop our podcast at noon Eastern via our home base at Audio Boom, and that'll be sent out on the RSS feed through Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, Blueberry, Google Play, and Spotify. It's everywhere. It's Wax Ecstatic, and we'll see you on Friday.